Okay, so in this question, it says the function g is defined by g of x is 2x plus 1 squared minus 8. And for part A, we have to draw a sketch of the graph and label the turning points and the x and y intercepts. Okay, so if we scroll down a bit, I've rewritten the question here, or the function, and given us some axes to draw it. So this is as if we've got a quadratic equation and they've completed the square on it. So to find the turning point, we just think about what would make this bracket 0, which would be minus 1. And then what would this function be if x was minus 1? Well, it would just be minus 8, because all this bit would disappear. So we know that minus 1 minus 8 down here is our turning point. If you're not familiar with that, then I'd recap the completing the square stuff. Then we need to think about the x-axis. So where are the x-intercepts? And for that, I would just solve this. So basically, let it equal to 0, and then solve. So we're going to have 2 sets of x plus 1 squared equals 8. Then we can say x plus 1 squared equals 4. So then we get x plus 1 equals plus or minus 2, because we can square root both sides. So our two solutions then is, don't have any enough space here, but x plus 1 equals positive 2, in which case x equals 1. Or x plus 1 equals negative 2, in which case x equals negative 3. Yeah, so x equals 1 and x equals negative 3 are our two solutions. Sorry, we've got 1 there, negative 3 there, and so our graph will look like that. And last one to find is this one here. So what's it going to be when x is 0? So if we plug 0 into here, we'd have 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 8 is minus 6. So this one here is minus 6. And that's it. We've now sketched the graph and we've labeled all of our points. Apologies for the kind of unneat writing there. But yeah, that's that. So now looking at B, it says write down the coordinates of the turning point when the curve is transformed as follows. So they've now given us 3 more versions of this function, and we need to think, how is that going to affect the graph? How's it going to change it? So stretch or shift it, and what will that do to the turning point? So if we go down a bit, this first one, it says 2g x minus 1. So we've got 2 things going on here. We've got the 2, which will affect the y, because it's outside of the brackets. That's going to stretch everything up and down by a factor of 2. And then we have this minus 1, which is inside the brackets, so going to affect the x value, and shift it across to the right by 1, so we're going to add 1 to the x value. So if our turning point is currently minus 1 minus 8, this minus 8 is going to be multiplied by 2 because of this 2. So it'll become minus 16. And then to this minus 1, we're going to add 1, so it becomes 0. So our new turning point for this function will become 0, negative 16. Then for this next one, we have minus 3 in the brackets. So all that means is that we multiply our x value, divide the x value by negative 3. So negative 1 divided by negative 3 is positive 1/3. But the y value would stay the same. And that's it. And then lastly, part 3, where we have the modulus of g, the g function. That's going to shift this whole negative bit below the x-axis, going to jump up to here. So this will just become positive. So it'll still be minus 1, but it'll now be positive 8 rather than negative 8. And that's it. That's that question done.